First of all, Patrick, great to see you with your clothes on. Hello. And to the point in question, look, we have a responsibility to a number of Afghan migrants on the basis that we encouraged them, along with the Americans, after we invaded their country, rightly or wrongly, many say wrongly, we encouraged them to help and support and abet the Allied forces in their own country. And of course, then putting them and their families' lives in danger. So I think it's only right, fair and proper that we do look after them. And frankly, I'm quite surprised there's only 8,000. I think the injustice here, though, is the fact that that body of people, Afghans in particular, having been promised kind of security and housing, are now at risk from homelessness, but not, I think, because that was particularly irresponsible. I think that was the right thing. But clearly because we've got goodness knows how many, 2,000 a week at the last count, Albanians, Indians, and so on, people who actually we owe nothing to, frankly, in terms of us having invaded them, because we haven't. Allowing those people to come over here willy-nilly with no ID as economic immigrants. And now, of course, we're effectively in a position, Patrick, where we're housing those people instead of Afghans that we owe a debt of service.
Look, I am genuinely very, very worried about the idea that we've got 8,000 Afghans who we've invited over, and as you said, initially, right, fair enough, who it looks as though we are about to turf out onto the streets. Well, I'm sorry, but that in itself poses a monumental risk, I think, to people who might be quite wound up about all of that. So I'm concerned about the health and safety side of that for the British public there anyway. I think this is a byproduct. This is the natural reality of the ridiculous kind of #refugees welcome policies that we've had, which is that we have a duty to throw our arms around the world. Well, all right, but unfortunately the world can't live here. And now there's 8,000 Afghans who are going to be out on the streets, plus however many tens of thousands arrive in the next few months across the Channel. We're just going to become a nation of homeless refugees, aren't we?
Yeah, and this ridiculous notion on the left that, of course, that all refugees are welcome. From an economic perspective, and a social perspective, that is completely and utterly unsustainable. So it's a lovely piece of fluffy ideology to say, hey, everyone's welcome. But of course, I don't think we can quite cater capacity-wise for the entirety of Afghanistan, Syria, Albania, of course, which is not a war-torn country. So the problem here is twofold. First of all, the fact that, in effect, despite this being a so-called conservative government, we have an open-door policy if someone wants to rock up on a dinghy with no passport as a 25-year-old, potential criminal. And they're the ones that seem to be taking preference in terms of them being effectively indirectly invited here. And the other problem, of course, Patrick, as we've well rehearsed, you and I, is the fact that actually if we built enough homes, maybe this wouldn't be quite so much of a problem. But then I also argue, and I think we talked about this previously, that the first people that should be getting homes in Britain are British people, aren't they? The fact they've lived here all their lives and they've paid into the system. I was looking at some stats just now, and this is pretty horrifying. Because of the way that the economy is and potentially how fragile the housing market is, most of the top 10 builders that supply about 70% of new house building in the UK have basically all but stopped building. The amount of starts that were not started, in effect, in terms of new construction in Britain, those starts have dropped 27% in the last few months on a year-on-year basis. So what we're about to see, if we think we've got a big problem now,
this is
as demand increases and supply stops, we're going to have an even bigger problem in a year or so.
We're going to have an even bigger problem. But it is almost like we have decided to implement the absolute worst of both worlds. As I understand it right now, our ridiculous policy when it comes to illegal immigration and asylum and refugees has catastrophic impacts on the indigenous British population and actually has catastrophic impacts on the genuine refugees that we've invited over. And the only people who appear to be benefiting at the moment are the people who have arrived here illegally or those children with full beards in schools.
Yes, and of course Serco and all the private contractors, G4S, whoever they are, who are making a lot of money from processing migrants, from doing deals with hotel owners and B&Bs across the country on 5-year terms still now, to house such people. So yeah, as ever, there are a lot of people making a lot of money out of this.
Yeah.
And you know, the fact that this so-called Conservative government, you know, Rishi Sunak, who I saw before I came on, I mean, the Rishi robot, I think he should be called. I mean, the fact that the man can't even answer one of your questions or any of your questions. I mean, talk about doing a gross disservice to the role and the office of Prime Minister. I mean, it's very, very scary that under him, Jeremy Hunt and others, we've effectively got, when it comes to immigration and housing, a day-to-day policy, or rather no policy at all. So there is really no planning, no strategy. The way they're trying to tackle this is just to allow the problem to continue and hope that by way of some pathetic sticking plaster type politics, by throwing our money at it further, that's going to solve the problem. This is a time bomb waiting to explode in social, economic and housing terms.
Absolutely. Look, thank you very, very much, Russell.